Hi everybody, Nate with Land Cloud Adventures here. This week we are in Waveland, Mississippi. Absolutely a beautiful place and a fascinating town with the history with the hurricanes as well as pirates. So we are going to, in this episode, we're going to tell you a little bit about the history of the pirates because we're right at the mouth of the Mississippi basically. So it was an ideal location for pirates to basically mess up with the traders and other things. And so we're going to visit a famed pirate house, as they call it, the location of it. The hurricanes have taken it out, and we'll show you how they probably were smuggling in various contraband. We're also going to go right next door to Bay St. Louis. There is a pretty cool little Mardi Gras Museum. We'll stop in there. We're also going to show you the entire coast here. We take a bike ride at sunset. It's nice and relaxing. And then lastly, we're also going to show you Buccaneer State Park, which is where we're actually staying for these 2 weeks. And it's got a cool water park that's open during the summer, and we'll take you around there as well. So strap in and let's go for a ride. Here we have the pirate map of Hancock County. Apparently this was a famous pirate area because it was right next to the Gulf. And if you see on the map, Jean Lafitte is said to have had a house here. We're gonna check that out. But over here, let's read what we got here. Legend tells us that pirate treasures have been buried in Hancock County since the 1700s, as the coastal area was easy to reach by thieves and deserters who buried their stolen booty but never returned to claim it. The largest cache, 3 kegs of gold, has never been found, but it comes at a price. It is said that the outlaw buried the gold with a young boy, a human sacrifice that will harm anyone who tries to take the treasure. Jerome Bonaparte landed in Waveland in 1815 with a trunk filled with 80,000 in gold and a plan to rescue his brother Napoleon from exile and bring him to the United States. Napoleon's loyalists made their way to New Orleans through Honey Island Swamp, where they buried the treasure in secret. They found little support for Napoleon and never returned to retrieve their treasure. So it's still there. Pirates often trafficked not only gold and jewels, but in human contraband as well. The pirate Jean Lafitte, or one of his trusted lieutenants, built a home on Waveland Beach in 1802. A secret tunnel connected cells beneath the house to the Gulf, and 3 pirate ships guarded the entrance when consignments of slaves were delivered to the area. Holy cow, how fascinating is that? So we're gonna find this pirate house that allegedly had a tunnel from the house to the beach. Just to show you the pirate history here, there was even a pirate section in the Mardi Gras Museum when we went there. Well, let's get over to the pirate house. We are here at the infamous pirate house that was built right on the coast in 1802. It's legend that it was either owned, lived in, somehow associated with the famous pirate Jean Lafitte, who was a big pirate in the area. Now back then in the early 19th century, we are somewhat close to the mouth of the Mississippi. So back then, pirates wreaked havoc because that's where a lot of the trade flowed through. So, and it's legend that a lot of them would come bury their gold and everything around here, and a lot didn't even come back for it. So there could be buried treasure around here somewhere. I don't know, I'm not digging for it. But here you can see the pirate house was built in 1802, and then it was later revived in the Greek style. And then unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, Hurricane Camille in 1969 destroyed it beyond repair, so it was not rebuilt or restored or anything like that. Now, one of the really interesting things about this house was its legend that they had built a tunnel from the house out to the Gulf, because it's right here, and they needed a way to smuggle things from the Gulf inland. So nobody can verify that there was a tunnel. Nobody can deny that there was a tunnel, other than to say that it would have been remarkable for them to have pulled it off, especially back then, because it would be hard to even do today. But if they had enough money, who knows, that can happen. The other thing about it is you've got the Gulf right there. Back here, we'll go here in a second, you've got a bayou. So there's another body of water just past here that does make it more realistic. And if they were looking for a place to do that type of smuggling, they could have their pirate ships out here. It was legend that when they had things come in, they'd have 3 pirate ships guarding this entrance, and then somehow either through the tunnel or through a waterway bring it back to this bayou back here, and the house was further back there. So however they did it, this is where a lot of the smuggling took place. Now, we think of gold and whatever they took from other ships and the traders and everything, but one thing, unfortunately, we're talking about, this was still back in slave times. So one thing that they were allegedly smuggling in were slaves. And one of the, while slavery was obviously unfortunate, we wish it never happened, one thing that I learned that was actually very interesting was in, I think it was 1803 when they did the Louisiana Purchase. And then later, Louisiana tried to do their state charter or whatever. The way this charter was built up or written was it didn't allow slavery. They used different words back then, but they didn't allow slavery in Louisiana. So even though slavery was legal in the rest of the US out east, it wasn't in Louisiana. So they were still having to smuggle slaves because there was a large demand on the plantations there. And so we are just east of Louisiana where we're at in Waveland. Okay, you guys are facing the Gulf again out there. And as you can see, obviously there's a road here now, which would not have been here in 1802. We're talking over 200 years ago. But you can see even today, there's a waterway that they had to put in from this bayou back here. So it would have made a very prime location for if you had pirate ships that needed to unload their cargo, whatever that was at the time, to discreetly get it back to the house where they would further transport it to wherever. This would make a lot of sense. Either they could get the smaller boats through this bayou, or and maybe even past the bayou they had the underground tunnel. That, who knows, it's a mystery. It's a possibility. I don't know if it's a probability, but it's definitely fascinating to think about. Build it. Now, they going back in the records, they don't know that Jean Lafitte actually owned it. The house was allegedly built by a very prosperous businessman, quote unquote, per se, in the New Orleans area. And so he was believed to be like the head of all the pirates, and that's where he was getting his money from. And so it was a very expensive house. And so he very well likely could have had the money to actually somehow have constructed that alleged underground tunnel. So we've come a little bit ways further in. We can't go any further legally because that becomes private property right there. So again, you see the Gulf back there, but I'm going to turn around. You see some rubble, some bricks here. That is likely just a house that was destroyed in Katrina. Nothing with the actual house, and they're building a new house on this private property here. The pirate house that Jean Lafitte is alleged to have been involved with would have been back there on the other side of the bayou, towards those white houses there. Now all of these houses are brand new. Everything got destroyed in the Hurricane Katrina. So that is not the actual house. Like I said, it was destroyed during Hurricane Camille in 1969. But that gives you an idea. It wasn't right on the bayou. It was a little bit off, which is why even if they could get the smaller boats into the bayou here, you would still, it would be very helpful to have a tunnel that went from underground tunnel that would then go from there to the house. However they would have had it set up, nobody knows. Nobody knows if it's even true. Nobody knows that has disproven it. It's absolutely fascinating. I kind of think the tunnel existed. Who knows if it's even still there today. We've now come to Bay St. Louis, the city right next to Waveland. And we're gonna go check out the Mardi Gras Museum that they have here. It's in their Tourism Bureau Center, apparently. I don't know, we're checking it out. It's a nice little area out in front. Let's go in and see what there is. Like I said, this museum is in their visitor center. As we come to the front, it looks like we're at the right place. Visitor center and Mardi Gras Museum. Let's go and check this thing out. Now, when you walk into the visitor center, you're right there. There's the Mardi Gras Museum. This place is not really big, but they do have about a little over 10 of these mannequins that are dressed up in your Mardi Gras garb that is just really interesting to look at. I actually kind of like what these guys are wearing. Maybe I want one of those one of these days. Anyways, I also was thinking to myself, you know, this museum is full of ladies that Kevin from the Nomad experience might be willing to take a chance with. What do you think? Right here to this one, the blue one, I think if I had one for myself, that's the one I would go with. I think maybe I could pull it off. Who knows? Now, Kevin, Kevin, over here, this is the nomad experience. I think this is your type of girl right there, Kevin. The back wall also had a bit of information on the blues culture in the area. Well, here's BB King. Everybody knows that name. So there's some pictures, there's some information back there. Again, it's not a huge museum, but the blues was a big part of this area and the culture in the area and the music in particular. I also want to point out the museum is absolutely free to come in. You just stop by, park, and you can go in. There's a donation box. The last part of the museum I thought was interesting was Stennis Space Center. It's just actually north of this area. It's a government facility where they test rockets. So there's some information on it here, but if you're coming to the area, I would definitely at least Google to see if they're doing any tests. Unfortunately, they weren't doing any while I was in town. We are now in Bay St. Louis. We have biked the entire trail to the railroad tracks. Past the college here, and now we're going to go all the way back to the state park. Took about 20 minutes. The sun's going down, so go ahead and enjoy the beach. It's beautiful out at 65 degrees. The sun's going down. This should be a very peaceful, relaxing ride here. Enjoy the ride. Let's slow down for a second because there's a lot of beautiful houses and views that we just rode right by. So here's the Waveland beach view, but a lot of these houses are gorgeous as well, and I want to point these out. Look, they're all raised on stilts, even the ones right there that look like they're not. They actually are, and then they've just got a fake facade or whatever on the front. But these are beautiful houses to come down and just walk around. Now, these are all brand new houses, and they all had to be built on stilts because of Hurricane Katrina. And even this church, look at that. Even the church had to be built on it. Now, I want to show you these beautiful pictures for the roads that they have, but Waveland Avenue is actually where I came in. And we're going to get to Buccaneer State Park, which is where we stayed. But one very important thing, be very careful how you come in here, especially if you're pulling a trailer. The railroad tracks are very dangerous. You do not want to get stuck on them, so I highly recommend coming in on Lakeshore Road. Now, here's the waiting pool. Let's just get down to it. I give this park a 3 out of 5 stars, maybe. It was not too crowded where I was at, but some of the other spots looked kind of crowded. And to be quite honest, that train track, they had trains coming through at all hours. Now, one thing at the park is Buccaneer Bay Aquatic Center. They got water slides. They've got a wave pool. It's really cool. Here's some prices. This was for 2021. Of course, next year it will be a little bit more, probably. I don't know. But just so you know, it's here. They've got a couple of big water slides. They got a wave pool in the back and a couple of other things that I could not get into because it is not open at the time I was recording this. But it looks pretty cool. If you're coming here with a family and you've got kids that like water parks and water slides, this might be something that you want to make sure that you check out. Lastly, there's a 9-hole disc golf course. If you're into that, I always had fun with playing it back in the day. We hope you enjoyed this video, enjoy these final views of the beach here. I just want to let everybody know that next week or the week after, the next video we have out will be on the same area, but but on Hurricane Katrina and the museum here. So please tune in.